Joining us now live is Peter Navarro from the White House, just out with the Immaculate Deception Report. Peter, thanks for being with us.
Well, John, thank you for being one of the great patriots of this country. You've been out there on the front lines. I think you need combat pay. I'm going to buy you a razor. I've been listening. I hear you kind of like getting kind of bearded out there. But boy, I tell you, I'm glad you're out there. And Georgia is one of the 6 battleground states I look at in this report, the Immaculate Deception. And that is one cesspool of election irregularities. And what I did with this report is I tried to take a 30,000-foot look at the chessboard. And I think your listeners would really enjoy reading this because it basically explains the central coordinated strategy of the Democratic Party, right? Which is simply, basically, to flood and stuff the ballot box, primarily with mail-in and absentee ballots, many of them which are illegal ballots, at the same time, in some cases, to actually destroy Trump ballots. That was the strategy. And if you look across how the 6 states as to how they did that, it's Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin. John, what all 6 of those states have in common is razor-thin margins of alleged victory for Biden that are dwarfed by the number of questionable ballots in those states. And so what I did was I look at these 6 dimensions of irregularities. You've got the obvious stuff, like the voter fraud stuff, but you've also got things like just simply mishandling the ballots. You've got what I call process fouls, which means government officials acted contrary to the law. You've got these equal protection violations where Republican observers and poll watchers and voters were treated very differently than Democrats in a way which swayed the election. You've got these voting machine irregularity. It's not just Dominion. You've got these other 2 things, Agilis and Novus, basically leading to ballot switching for Biden. And you've got some really odd statistical anomalies where you observe turnout well above 100% in some places, which, if there isn't same-day registration, simply can't happen. So what I did was look at all this. I found that all of these states have some or all of these election irregularities, but each, John, is different in its own way. So, for example, in Wisconsin, they've got these indefinitely confined voter abuses where people who are described as infirm and can't leave the house are out skiing in Aspen or biking down the trail here, that kind of stuff. And Georgia's got its consent decree. Arizona, man, I'm telling you, that's a walking statistical anomaly. Nevada, I tell you, the stain on Nevada and the Democrat Party is the blatant, brazen handoff of cash to American Indians on the reservations to vote for Joe Biden. I mean, that's felony stuff, John. Yet, I mean, it's not even debated that it was done. There's just like all sorts of evidence to show it. So, punchline here is like, look, if Joe Biden won this with legal votes, I'd be the first to congratulate him. But we need a full investigation before Inauguration Day, because we run the risk of having an illegitimate and illegal president. And what we're going to have is both the world and the American people looking at what has been the greatest democracy in world history not being able to do the most basic, fundamental mission of a democracy, which is to run a fair election. And this was not that.
You're on the John Fredericks Radio Network, Trucking the Truth Across America. I'm with Peter Navarro. Peter Navarro is the Director of Office, Trade and Manufacturing Policy for the President, been Senior Advisor to President Trump since he was inaugurated. He's been a warrior for a very long time for us. So, Peter, the Immaculate Deception that you put out, if you look at these 6 states, all these irregularities, you look at the statistics of it, nothing makes any sense. So what do you recommend that the president does? I mean, or that what has to happen here? Because what we're hearing in Georgia, this is real, Peter, is that callers, Trump voters, the deplorables, they don't want to vote on January 5th because they simply think their vote doesn't matter. It's going to get stolen again because nobody's doing anything about it. And same machines, same fraud, same absentee ballots, same drop boxes with no chain of custody. In fact, they added some. Now they got mobile voting RVs that are going around Fulton County picking people up.
I was listening to your beautiful riff yesterday on Bannon's show about, wow, they got these mobile RVs, and you made the point, which is on point, that you can't vote in that runoff election unless you voted in the previous election. And that's a de facto violation the way they're going about doing this. They're going out and registering new people and then taking their votes. I mean, that's so. What should we do about it? Well, first of all, I think we need a special prosecutor appointed immediately. A Ken Starr type person with stature, because this is going to take a year to unwind. Okay, but in the shorter run, I don't think there's any way that election in Georgia should be held on January 5th. That needs to be postponed till at least February to sort out all of this. And you've got a Republican governor, you've got Republican legislatures down there, and if they let this travesty unfold, John, I mean, look, one of the other things I point out in the report is that this is a signal failure of our institutions as well as the Republican Party. I mean, if you think about it, 5 of the 6 battleground states, you have both chambers of the state legislatures controlled by Republicans, yet they did absolutely nothing to stop what is happening or investigate what is happening. So, special prosecutor, push the Georgia election to at least February, so we can kind of like put a halt to all this cesspool of things, and let's get to the bottom of this.
Why do you think that, as you said, 5 of the 6 battleground states are controlled by Republicans who stood by and did nothing and let this happen, Georgia being one of them? Of course, I really can't blame their General Assembly because Raffensperger did a deal and never looped them in. But why did they do nothing? What was the reason for that, in your judgment, Peter Navarro?
I think there's 2 major factors. One is that they can't stand the heat in that kitchen. There's tremendous machine out there in the media and the social media that if you speak against the orthodoxy or question these results, the wrath of Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg and the New York Times comes down upon you. And these people would rather run and hide. But more importantly, John, because you're a kindred spirit on this, there's a battle for the hearts and minds of this country between the economic nationalists that you and Bannon and others represent and the globalist status quo ante that we had before Donald Trump and we're going to have if we can't win this fight. And I think a lot of the Republicans in this country are of the old school traditional Republicans who don't support the fair trade agenda, who don't want to get tough on China, and who love it when cheap labor floods across the border and allows our corporations basically to make a few more shekels. And so we continue to struggle. You know, I was with the president back in 2016 during the campaign as his top economic advisor. I can count on one hand the number of us in the White House who were left from the campaign. I mean, it's a surprising small number of people. But it's like I just saw a lot of folks over the last 4 years, many of them Republicans, who just didn't support the president's agenda, and shame on them. Shame on them. And so I think there's at least some folks in those battleground states that have an R attached to their name that simply are not on the Trump train. And that's a problem.
Peter Navarro with us. Peter of the Office of Trade and Manufacturing at the White House did a report called The Immaculate Deception. As soon as 10 o'clock comes, I'm going to put this up on our Facebook page, facebook.com, John Fredericks Show. It'll be there. Follow us there. Peter, have you told the president that he needs to name a special prosecutor to investigate this election right now?
I haven't had that conversation. I've given him the report. I have no idea whether he's read it yet. But I'm doing this as a private citizen,
right?
And as a concerned private citizen, and I'm trying to keep church and state separate.
I understand. When you said earlier we need to win this fight, it's December 18th now. What are the remaining options that are available now to win this fight?
Well, I think 3rd. I think the third thing we need to do is seize those voting machines before they get erased and take a look at those. I think that. I believe that if we were able to unleash an investigation now and really get to the bottom of some of this stuff, the videotape in Atlanta, what's the deal there? Where's that tractor trailer in Pennsylvania? Why aren't courts ruling this consent decree illegal? Why isn't Wisconsin? If we do all of that now, I think something will emerge that will show even more damning evidence is what's going on, and then that becomes a matter for Congress. It becomes a matter for the state legislatures. But time's running out. And the way this train's going right now, we run the risk, John, of not fully investigating this because effectively of a self-censoring media and inaugurating an illegitimate and illegal president in Joe Biden. And this is the game. Like, as soon as he gets in there, we'll probably see more willingness to investigate because, let me just predict it here, I don't think he lasts more than 2 years. I mean, the progressives are gonna eat him alive on this Hunter Biden laptop from hell issue, so they can have Kamala Harris in there and put in a progressive cabinet and agenda that does not. Here's the important point: does not reflect the middle of America. Those folks are not who we as a country are. Right now, they're way over on the ideological spectrum, but that's kind of thing. And this Joe Biden, geez, he's on whining on Colbert. I mean, there's two whiners if I've ever seen any people whine about. Nothing to see here with Hunter. He's the smartest guy I know. I mean, how you can double down on what is arguably the worst compromise of an American citizen by the Chinese in history. Not because it's Hunter Biden, but because that kid is the son of what people are calling the president-elect. And he's also, I guess, what is it, the nephew of James, who is basically the effective head of the Biden criminal syndicate.
Unbelievable. After this investigation you did, Peter, and then I've got a few questions here on text from our listeners. You did this investigation, the Immaculate Deception, 2020 election irregularities. So you did the work, you studied it. Do you believe that Donald J. Trump legitimately won this election?
I think the best way to answer that is most likely yes, based on the following. If you go, there's a great, for your listeners, just get the report and look at the table. There's one table in there. It's like a matrix. It says it all, right? It's the 6 dimensions of election irregularities across the 6 battleground states. If there's a check mark in a box, it happened there, and it's a sea of check marks. But the important thing is in columns 7 and 8, it compares the Biden victory margin with the votes in question. So, for example, in Georgia, you've got less than 12,000 votes as the Biden victory margin, and you've got hundreds of thousands of ballots that are potentially illegal. And you just go down the list there. And so um, everything I've seen, there's a high likelihood that this election was stolen by the Democrat Party using this strategy across the 6 battleground states of stuffing the ballot box with mail-in and absentee ballots, many of them which are likely illegal, and we just got to find out. That's the point. I mean, here's the thing, John. A significant segment of this country right now has no faith or belief in the election result, and that can't stand.
Well, a number of polls have come out showing up to 58% of people in America right now believe this election was stolen. Trump got 40-something, 48% or something. So that means that you've got a large percentage of people that voted for Biden think that it was fraudulent. I mean, that's just not a good thing, right? So, Peter, I think you're 100% right there. Now, what about these Dominion machines, the irregularities in them? We got 2 counties in Georgia where you feed the ballots in, you get a different result that comes out. What is your view on those, on these Dominion machines and Smartmatic?
The definitive information we know so far is the Antrim County in Michigan event, because what a judge allowed a report to be released by a cybersecurity firm that showed a 68% failure rate in the machine when the Federal Election Commission recommends a less than 1% of 1% failure rate. I mean, a catastrophic failure. And you know what I think happened? I think that it was a mistake that whoever did that did it in Antrim County because it was a Republican county, and it brought the machine to the attention of people. It's like, wait a minute, Antrim County couldn't possibly voted for Biden. That's crazy, right? So I think probably if we look at this, if there's wrongdoing, you'll see a lot of the machinations in more Democrat controlled areas, so it doesn't look quite as suspicious. But that's why I say, I mean, we need to grab these machines and look at the information on them and compare that to what went in and what came out, and let's see. I mean, look, there's enough smoke there that we need to find out whether the house is on fire, right? And it's just, I mean, all these people in the media, these anti-Trump media, are saying, well, there's no evidence. It's like, yeah, it's because you won't let us look for it. And by the way, there's plenty of evidence. For my report, I looked over 1,000 affidavits and declarations, John. I looked over 50 court cases, public testimony, think tank and legal center analyses, first-hand accounts, photos, videos, extensive press coverage. There's plenty of evidence. Please stop saying that. There's no evidence. It's just wrong.
Final thing, call to action. You want a special prosecutor named now. Can that come from the president, or does that have to come from the acting attorney general?
Well, look, there's this debate here, which really isn't a debate in America. It's been going on for 4 years, is whether cabinet officials operate autonomously or whether they report directly to the president as the commander-in-chief. And I take the latter view. And whether or not this has to be done technically by the acting attorney general or through the president, there's no difference there. It's like, just, if the president wants a special prosecutor, he damn well ought to get it. And if the Department of Justice head doesn't want to do it, then go on to the next person there until he finds somebody who will. I mean, that's the way government should work. He's the commander-in-chief. It's like this whole idea of like, oh, the Justice Department is supposed to be autonomous. The State Department is supposed to be autonomous. Let them do this. No. Too many things can go wrong there. People elect a president to lead. And this president leads.
All right, listen, final thing. Special prosecutor, we got the DNI report was supposed to come out today. That's delayed. Ratcliffe said he's getting all kinds of pushback from the deep state, CIA, whatever. So I don't really want to comment on that. But is there anything as well? Go ahead. Comment on that.
It's just like, come on, guys, put that stuff out there. It's like we've been waiting 4 years.
Yeah, just
to
put it
get
out.
the goods on Brennan, Comey, Clapper, Page,
Put it
and
out.
Strzok. You know what they did. Put it out there.
Yeah.
Come on,
Put it
guys.
out. Yeah. Well, they're trying to run out the clock till they hope Biden gets there. Is there any other action the president can take to stop the wrong, change the wrong, and make it right? Peter Navarro, is there anything else he can do other than name a special prosecutor to investigate this November 3rd election? Is there anything else he can do?
Well, look, he's a master communicator, and the more he dials and talks with these local and state officials, the better. And, it's all about the battleground states. And it's like, and he does this. He's on the phone every day. He's, talking. It'd be nice if Kemp and Ducey got on the Trump train. Mm-hmm. But there's state legislator leaders and things like that. They just look. The American people at this point, a large segment of them want the truth, right? American people, unlike the media itself, can handle the truth. Okay, so let's get to it. That's what we need to do.
Let's get to the bottom of it. Peter Navarro, I want to thank you for your time today. I know we overextended it, and I want to thank you for all you've done for such a long time, and especially in the past 4 years.
You're doing great work out there.
Thank you, Peter. Immaculate Deception, I'm going to put it up on our Facebook page a little bit later on today. Peter Navarro, thank you.